here with the gardening gang, Pete Little and Cheralyn Darcy. Yet another Saturday, and what a beautiful weekend coming our way for the Australia Day. For many people, a 4-day break, and that's just magnificent because we can talk all about gardens for the next 4 days. Well, what do you think, Cheralyn?
Yeah, why not? That would be heaven for me.
You.
That'd be the angels, yeah. Lovely.
Now, because it's the Australia Day super long weekend, Cheralyn worked out a good idea. And that was to sort of bring in the whole situation with Australian plants, the native plants. We talk about native plants most regularly on the show. But today, quite specifically, we're talking to people. You've got a couple of guests as well, haven't you?
I've got some guests today. I've got wonderful Jake Cassar from Australian Bushcraft. He'll be talking with us about bush tucker. And I've also got Mandy dos Santos from Little People Nutrition, because you know what's happening next week, Pete?
Yes, the little grubs are back at school.
They are.
From Wednesday, I think.
I think it's actually, I've got a school teacher neighbour, and school teachers are back Wednesday, Pete, and kids are back on Friday. So it's sort of one day, just a taster. So you've got to get nice school lunches happening. So Maddie,
I'd like you to raise the topic of lunchtime shaming. It's something that I've become aware of, and I don't know if you're about it. You haven't got kids at school, but I've got grandkids.
No, I have heard about it because I'm a bit of an Instagram person, and it does come up, lunchbox shaming. And, we'll have a chat with Mandy about that for sure. It sounds horrible, doesn't it?
Oh, it does.
We'll find out.
All happening tonight? Well, it's not tonight. I'll tell you about what's happening tonight. That's why I just mentioned the words tonight. It has nothing to do with our show. Anyway, it's back to the classic hit. It is the Gardening Gang, heard every Saturday morning on Coast FM, being sponsored by Alan Graham's Caravans and RVs, and they're open all weekend, and Doormaster Security Doors and Windows at beautiful Berkeley Vale, and they're back on deck on Monday. Okay, now bush tucker is a topic we're going to be sort of talking about today. Look, can I just reflect back to my youth? Okay. This is my first experience with bush tucker, right? So I was a Boy Scout. And we used to go on camps and things like that and take our food into the bush and things like that. Right. And, in those days, there wasn't a big lot of knowledge about bush tucker, and I think the Boy Scout leaders were concerned about us poisoning ourselves or getting, into some sort of problems, because often, we were talking about 12 and 13-year-old boys going away for a 3-day camp, unsupervised, might I add. So my mother would pack little bits of bush tucker, like cans of baked beans, Vegemite, and put the bread in foil so I could make Vegemite sandwiches. That was my experience with bush tucker. Now, tell me about it, Cheralyn. Tell me what the real story is.
The real story, that is not bush tucker, okay?
I know that now.
That's tucker you can eat in the bush. I think that there's a difference. There's a big difference there. So Aussie bush tucker, as we call it now, is anything that grows wild in the Australian bush. But it's not just, we are just going to talk about the plants, but the term actually refers to anything that can be eaten, which will include witchetty grubs. You could have been eating witchetty grubs back then. A bit of protein for
Not
you.
one cup of tea, mate.
But I tell you, depending on where you were, I don't think you're up north, but barramundi's bush tucker, mud crab, kangaroo is bush tucker. There you go, it's all bush tucker. So it's just wild food, that's what it is. But we'll be talking about plants today in our show. So plants, and I'm sure a lot, you might have heard of these ones. Listen to the aquandon is one, lemon myrtle is another one.
Yes, that's a familiar name.
Davidson plum. So all of these things have become more popular because in the 80s we had a lot of progressive chefs that were looking for new and interesting flavours. So they started looking at Australian wild foods to put into their cooking, and that's where it all sort of started for us. And of course our Indigenous people have been using all these things. That's what they sustain themselves on, and that's the food. Unfortunately, because of colonisation and us sort of getting rid of a lot of the bushland, we've lost a lot of these things. And also when we came in, we didn't take much notice of the local food
And, of
stuff.
course, going back, say, 100 years ago, even less than that, most of our cooking was influenced by the pommies.
Absolutely, it was, and things do look strange. We've talked about this a lot on the show, how Australian plants look really different. We're talking about the beautiful wildflowers in England and how they're very small because that's the Northern Hemisphere. They need to survive through the winters, so they're only small. They're only around for a small amount of time. Here in Australia, our plants are bigger and they have to be tougher, and they're quite colourful and they're hardy as well because they have to sustain themselves. So you think Waratah, Banksia, those sorts of things. So they're different. So the foods look different as well. And it's a shame, but they're starting to come back. People are starting to garden again with native Australian foods as well, which is really exciting.
Well, we'll talk about some of those other things too. I want to raise the topic about the root vegetables like yams and the like. They're kind of Australian native, aren't they?
There are. The thing is, there are so many different types of plants, Pete. There's so many different types. So there are tree fruits and there's nuts and there's tubers like the yams that you're talking about. There's the finger lime, which is really popular, and I'm amazed at the amount of people I've been speaking to lately who don't realise that is an Australian native plant, and that's becoming really, really popular. So we do have those types of citrus things, and we've got greens. We'll be talking about Warrigal greens as well, which has a wonderful Captain Cook story attached to it as well.
So if you're going to be going shopping, if you're doing a little list for your shopping for the weekend, put down some Australian native bits and pieces.
Yes.
And more coming up soon, but more music now. Now we're talking about, because it is the Australia Day super long weekend, we're talking about things like Australian bush bits and pieces,
foods and plants. That's what we're talking about. Edible plants mostly. That's what we're talking about, yeah.
And you've got a guest on the phone here this morning.
I do.
Have you?
I do.
Is he a good guest?
He's great. It's Jake Cassar from Bushcraft. Jake Cassar's Bushcraft. And hi, Jake. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And Jake, you're a local bushcraft teacher and youth mentor. Can you explain your actual role and what you do sort of day to day?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm a bushcraft teacher, or a survival teacher would be another way of putting it. I do bushcraft like making fire with sticks, making rope and string from natural fibres. But my main emphasis is focusing on edible and medicinal plants. And I blend that with youth mentoring, which is something very, very close to my heart. I think particularly here on the Central Coast, we need as much support as we can for our youth.
That's wonderful. And there's something also in that for everybody, though, because I know that you run these workshops and events and weekends and things like that for everybody. It's not just limited to the youth, although that is something that is just so commendable. I'm just thrilled to hear that you're doing that. It's something that's close to my heart, is getting kids especially back into the land and understanding it. But your courses and things and your events are open to everybody?
Oh, absolutely. So we've got our Jake Cassar Bushcraft. I started that up about 4 years ago, and I'm leasing a beautiful property out at Mangrove Mountain. Oh. And people can just jump on my website and book courses. They either do day courses, mainly focused on edible and medicinal plants, but they do cover other survival skills. Right. And we run weekend courses as well.
So that's actually what I wanted to talk to you about today, is bushcrafting. Is that the same as wildcrafting?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different terms getting around rewilding and nature connection nowadays. I guess it's all leading to the same thing. Mine is more specifically edible and medicinal plants. It's something I've done for a very long time. I've actually done survival missions, or wild food challenges, I sometimes call them, where I live off only what I can catch and gather, forage for weeks at a time, and I've been doing that for over 20 years.
And so you can actually do that. If I went out into the Australian bush and I had the experience, because I'm imagining there's poisonous things out there as well. I know that from the gardening, the things that I do. So you'd have to know what you're looking for. Is that right? I mean, how do we know that something's edible?
Oh, absolutely. It's got to be a journey of learning. I wouldn't just do a couple of crash courses and go out and attempt to survive off. But, it's something that I've been able to do through years and years and years of experience. And I've made a few mistakes along the way. So.
But it is possible for with training for somebody to survive in the Australian bush.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, well, our motto is don't just survive, thrive. And there's ways that we can. There's so many introduced flora and fauna.
Yes.
species around, you know. I mean, we've got deer here on the Central Coast, and there's wild goats, and then there's dozens and dozens of edible green leafy wild vegetables as well. So pretty remarkable what's out there.
Well, I've been hearing about warrigal greens. Now, I've eaten them and I want to start growing them in my garden now. So I know that there's some amazing stories around this and it's becoming very popular. Is that something that you think we could grow in our gardens successfully without much trouble on the Central Coast?
Yeah, that can be a little bit temperamental. I heard that the seaweed fertiliser is a good idea, which would make sense with the warrigal greens or tetragonoides being usually growing next to saltwater plains.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably a good idea. But once you get it going, it can be very, very weedy, which is a great idea. In New Zealand, they call it kohihi, and they boil it twice and they feed it to their elders. It's quite a powerful anti-inflammatory.
Do they call it New Zealand and Australian spinach or something like that as well, don't they? It is supposed to be a type of spinach.
Yeah, New Zealand spinach, it certainly is related. So New Zealand spinach are warrigal greens, warrigal meaning wild dog in the Sydney language, so I'm not sure where it got that name, but it's quite a fascinating plant. It's not just folklore that it's an anti-inflammatory. It does have those chemical constituents in it. It's also something which helps with the metabolism, and they developed a weight loss pill in America using the tetragonia.
Oh, well, look, thanks a lot for being on the show today. This has been fantastic. Thanks for joining us on The Gardening Gang. And I look forward at some point in actually coming out and interviewing you and doing one of your courses, I think, Jake. You've got me fascinated. Thanks for joining us on The Gardening Gang today. Bye.
The Mariners had a big win last night. They did, yes.
Yay.
And we've got a full report on that now.
The Mariners wrap from last night's game.
Friday night football here at Jubilee Stadium has seen the Central Coast Mariners reclaim top position in the A-League with a comprehensive 2-0 victory over Sydney FC in front of a home crowd to the Sky Blues. The Mariners have not won away to Sydney FC in 2,561 days. That record has been consigned to the history books. It was an own goal to Warland from Sydney FC, and then Cool for the Mariners in the 74th minute, the difference between the two teams. Luke Byrne, the Mariners top of the competition, and it was all players pitching in.
Yeah, it was a fantastic team performance. They were defensively so sound, but the standout for mine was Ruan Tongi, our Coast FM player of the match. He was just everywhere for the away side. He was the one who set up the second goal with 2 hard tackles, just winning the ball out of defence, transitioning the ball into the attack, and he was the standout player for mine this evening.
The Mariners move on to take on Wellington Phoenix next Sunday afternoon. You'll hear all the action here on Coast FM 963, and if you want to get out to the ground, get out to Central Coast Stadium and support your Mariners.
Wherever the Mariners are playing this season, you'll hear it right here at Coast FM 963. Thanks, lads. They're very excited about the win last night there, Cheralyn, aren't they? Very excited.
That's
Makes it worthwhile when the team wins.
It does.
Now, back to the Gardening Gang.
Yes.
We're talking about these wonderful bush tucker opportunities here on the Central Coast particularly. My daughter and her husband and family have just moved into a new place.
Aww.
They've established just in the lower reaches of the Lake Macquarie, not far from where you live, mate.
Yeah, that's not far at all. That's just up the road.
So if I was, and we're going to see them this weekend, so if I was going to recommend that they look at some bush tucker opportunities, because they said, Pete, check out with Cheralyn what we should be doing in the garden.
Okay.
I said, what? Publicly, we are asking the question.
All right.
What opportunities have they got? They're not mad green thumbers, but they are enthusiastic.
Okay, well, the best thing about Aussie Bush Tucker is obviously they're native plants, and so they'll grow best in the area. That's always the way. Introduce plants like our lettuce and tomatoes and things like that. They need quite intensive gardening techniques to make them grow and make them thrive as well. But things that are indigenous to the area, it would make sense, will grow really easily, and you need to just find out what they are. To do that, contact your local Indigenous Land Council and also the council as well, because I believe Lake Macquarie is different.
What, you don't know these answers?
I don't know all of them. No, I'm going to give you some.
You're going to flicker off to somebody else, are you?
I'm now going to give your lovely daughter some tips and anybody else that's listening that would like to know. I've got a whole list of plants that will work, but also have a look at what has been growing before, because it's really nice to bring things back. And of course, the Indigenous people of the land know more than we do. You know, this is their land, and to respect what they do culturally as well. So you can help out with some of these things too. That's my community garden flag waving again, Pete. Sorry about that. Okay, so I suggest Warrigal greens. Jake Cassar and I spoke about those.
You mentioned those.
I did. Now, they're very interesting. They're like it's a type of spinach. That's what it is. That's how you use it. It's not actually spinach, but you can use that like a spinach, and it goes in everything. You do need to cook it because it has a high level of different sorts of crystals in them that need to be dissolved. Not very good if you've got gout, so you need to do that. Finger limes are popular. You can grow warrigal greens really popular, really easily. Now, finger lime, that would be something that you can have, and you can use that in place of all the lemon flavours and things like lemongrass and all that in your food. So they're really, really good. Native rosella, we talk about those on the show quite a lot. Beautiful to make jams out of, and also the entire plant can be used, so like the shoots, the leaves, the roots as well. So you can use the leaves in salads and things too. Yeah. So that's really good. Everybody needs a quandong, don't they? We call that the native peach. So they grow quite well.
I thought you were going to say everyone needs a condom. Sometime in your life, you're right.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, goodness. I knew we'd go there some point. Native ginger as well. There's a really lovely, beautiful native ginger that you can get as well. I'm going to put all these plants up on our website as well, on our Facebook page once I leave here this afternoon. Also with the native ginger, you can make ginger tea from the leaves, which are just absolutely beautiful. There's and from the berries, they've got a lovely blueberry that's really, really nice. Blue flax lily grows everywhere. And you need to also make sure identification is firm. So getting a book, there's quite a few wonderful books out there, so you've got identification right. Having a chat to Jake Cassar, he's got a website and you can have a look at that. And also, as I said, talking to your local councils and Indigenous people. So there are a few of the ones they can start off with. And, of course, let's not forget the most famous lily pilly.
The mighty lily pilly.
The mighty lily pilly. So if you've got the room, have they got the room for a nice tree?
Oh, I don't think that's a major problem. It's, I think, a bit bigger than a house block, probably 1,000 square metre.
Oh,
yeah, they're looking for a bit of space to fill.
You could fit that in. You could fit that in quite easily. So that would be really good. But the things that grow the best here is the tuckerbush cherry. The Atherton red black ginger will grow quite well here as well. The smooth Davison plum, wild currants grow well. Lemon myrtle, of course. I'm not a big fan. It seems to upset my tummy. There's a bit personal for you. So, and you know where I had lemon myrtle the first time and it upset my tummy? In gin.
Ah, yes.
I had a gin and it had lemon myrtle in it when I was in Cairns.
And it mightn't have been the lemon myrtle.
Okay. You don't think so?
I don't know about your habits of drinking, but...
Well, it was hot in Cairns, so yeah, it was this time last year. I was very sick on the plane coming home. Anyway, I put it down to the lemon myrtle, but you might have something there. Okay, and there's also a native river mint as well, so Mentha australis, and that is gorgeous in everything.
Well, who needs Jake Cassar? You got it all covered there, mate.
No, we do need Jake. We need people like Jake.
As well.
He does. We love Jake.
And your local Aboriginal cultural centre as well.
Absolutely.
Well, there you go. So much to think about for my daughter and her brand new garden. So we'll keep you posted on that one too. But they do like cauliflowers. With Pete Little and Cheralyn Darcy, it is the Gardening Gang at home talking about those native Australian plants. It is the Australia Day long weekend, and it's going to be a beautiful weather pattern for the next couple of days. Let me say, sunshine, blue skies, no indication of any rain here. Today, the maximum of 31. Not a good day for gardening this late in the day. Perhaps an early start tomorrow might help. Yeah, Sunday.
Early start.
35, and also to Monday with the Tuesday, I should say, being Australia Day, that's going to be as high as 35 as well. So it's going to be hot, Jack.
Hot.
Coast FM, Botanical History is all part of our Gardening Gang offering on a Saturday morning.
It is.
And you're such a wise woman in terms of botanical history. What revelations do you have today, Cheralyn?
I've got a couple. I've got a serious story and a funny story. So the first one involves Captain James Cook, and it does involve our warrigal greens again. So when he came to Australia, a lot of the crew were suffering from scurvy, and he's quite well known for realising that it had to do with diet.
Yes.
And he found warrigal greens, and he noticed that the Indigenous people were eating them, and he fed the warrigal greens to the crew and himself and cured the scurvy. That's what he did. So with those greens, and they actually took the warrigal greens back to England, and it was the first ever Australian Indigenous edible plant that was cultivated in England, and still is.
Well, there you
They eat
go.
more of it over there.
And I'd
than we
never
do.
heard of warrigal greens until today.
So they actually eat
Taken
it.
250 years.
There you go, and they eat it more than we do. So it's our thing. So that's our little serious story. But our funny story is about a bit of a rogue, someone that you probably would align with quite well, and that is Sir Joseph Banks.
Oh, yes, the Banksia plant man.
Banksia plant man. And look, I've heard this story from lots of botanists and gardeners through the years. I don't know if it's an urban legend, but I've got a true story and a maybe not too true story. There are so many plants with the name Banks or Joe or things like that in their name because, of course, he was a botanist who came here.
Yep.
Named Botany Bay is named after him as well, the Caucasian name for it, the Western name. And anyway, he saw the first flower that was seen was the Banksia, and Captain Cook was standing there apparently and looking at it saying, that is amazing. And, Joe, is that a flower or not? And he said, absolutely. Went and looked in and said, absolutely. And, Captain Cook apparently stood there with his chest out going, we need to name it, man. What will we name it? And, of course, thinking, we'll name it after me because I'm the captain. And he said, I name this Banksia.
So it wasn't named the cook after all?
No, it wasn't. And, he was a bit of a rogue. We all know that. I've just finished reading another biography of him because, good things, bad things I know about him. But also the trip that Cook took to Tahiti, which was his final trip afterwards, he went to Banks and he asked him to come along. And he's also attributed of having the first ever celebrity rider because he was very, very rich as well as very clever as well. And he didn't really want to go. So he said, okay, look, I'll come. However, I need room for a fiddler to fiddle for me and before I eat every night. That's what I want, music. I also need a cabin for my mistress. And and he had all of this huge rider of all these things that he needed every night.
He was like a pop star.
Yeah, he was like a pop star. And Captain Cook said, how there's just no room. And he said, I'll pay for it all, but that has to be there. That's it. And he just said, mate, no. So he didn't go on the trip, which is probably good for Banks, because it was the final Captain Cook trip. So
he wanted a celebrity status.
He was a bit of a celebrity and a bit of a rogue. So, there are a couple of stories. But I love
quite often back in those days. The wealthy people always had a mistress on the side. The wife stayed back in England, looked after the children of the house.
That's right, yeah.
And your, other friend came along for comfort reasons.
Comfort reasons, yeah, that's right. There were long voyages back then.
Good story. Okay, that takes care of botanical history
for this week
in its most serious format, I must say. Sport. Colleen from North Gosford is on the line. Cheralyn, good morning, Colleen.
Morning, Colleen.
Good morning. How are you all?
Well, we're pretty good. Good. We've also got our Aussie flags around the studio here this morning as well, and we're chewing on bush tucker, and that's a lie. Now, you got a question for Cheralyn this morning?
Yes, I have. We have a spare worm farm. It's not being used here at home. We're just wondering who we could give it to.
Oh.
That's a nice bit of bush tucker. You hungry? You like some worms?
They're not. No.
What do you reckon, Cheralyn?
I think that's a wonderful idea. We could do that. We could find somebody who would like a worm farm that really needs it, probably starting up or something like that, and somebody who's actually starting up doing gardening and really needs it, because I know they're quite expensive, so to start up with. So, yeah. How can we do that, Pete?
Okay, well, if you'd like to... Oh, Colleen, can you get that up to the Swampies next weekend? Are they open yet, Cheralyn?
No, they're not actually open yet, but they open up on the first week of February. They'll be open Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursdays from 9 a.m. till 11 a.m. and the times will extend when the months are a bit cooler. And the following Sunday, same times, 9 till 11, 31st of January, 28th of February and the 28th of March, last Sunday.
Now, there may be listeners thinking, what the hell's the Swampies? That is the community garden at South Tacoma.
That's at that's exactly right. That's at the old dairy there. The Sustainable Wetlands Agricultural Makers project at the Central Coast Wetlands.
Is that okay for you, Colin? Can you organise to get that up there, mate? That'll be going to a good home.
First week in February, that'd be great. We're retired, so there's no problem.
9 till 11, I'll be up there.
Yeah, they might press gang you into being a volunteer as well, Colin, so be careful.
Well, it's better. We have to put all our plants in pots because we still have a resident turkey.
The turkeys.
Anyway, she's got a solution for those two. Okay,
great.
Good on you, Colin.
Very much.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks, Colleen.
Bye.
Bye.
Now, there we go. We've got some excellent solutions to our listeners' problems this morning. This is the Gardening Gang with Pete Little and Cheralyn Darcy, heard every Saturday morning between 8 and 10. And we're being sponsored by Alan Graham's Caravans and RVs at Wyoming, and also the Doormaster Security Doors and Windows business at Berkeley Vale. 9 minutes after 9. Now, before we get back to the show, well, we're still on the show. We're not leaving anywhere. We just had a wonderful call from Deborah. Now, Deborah is representing an organisation setting up a community garden, and she's keen to take the worm farm that Colleen rang about. Now, our problem is, and Colleen, you're tuned in, I hope, still. Colleen, we didn't retain your telephone number, so if you'd like to call Coast FM back any time this morning during our show, and we'll pass on your phone number to Deborah. What an interconnecting organisation this is. And you can organise to, Deborah will organise to have that picked up. Okay? What thoughtful people. Now, Coast FM, we're talking about those little things today called bush tucker. And also some phone calls during the news from people saying, where do we start? Do we start with plants or seeds or do we steal clippings, which we were talking about last week?
No, we don't. Well, you can either plants or seeds, and you can get those from most of our local nurseries will help you out with that. So always remember, if it isn't sitting there on the shelf or out there, you can also ask the people in the nursery if they can get things in for you or where else you might be able to get some things from. Now, if you're on our Facebook page, I've just put up a little link there to the Sydney Wildflower Nursery, and there's also a wildflower nursery on the Central Coast that I've just discovered as well. If you have a look at this actual link, it actually has a whole lot of bush tucker and the botanical names, some of the common names, and the uses as well. And I'm sure this place would have the plants as well. So that's a really nice little thing. But getting your seeds, that's a good way to do it. And just having a little Google as well. But I will put some more places up on the website that I've found as well. Australian, I'm just thinking out of the top of my head, Australian Plants Online is a wonderful place as well. And I've gotten a few bits and pieces from them too.
Well, when you say the website, could you just share with us that
AustralianPlantsOnline.com.au. There you go. Online.com.au and SydneyWildflowerNursery.com.au as well.
Okay, that's wonderful news. Yes. And in the meantime, while we have, shall we say, a tune, I think we've got probably the response has been marvellous. I think Colleen's back on the line. We'll talk to her now. This is a low-budget show, by the way, Colleen. We have to do everything. Answer the phone.
We're multitaskers.
Oh, mate.
We are. We run around.
Get the weather forecast from the bureau.
That's it. We love it, though.
Make your own cups of tea.
I make your tea, Pete. Don't tell lies.
3. This is the Gardening Gang with some great classic hits. And I've also got ready here a song that's become quite popular again. A song, I think, from the 70s because of a new TV ad that's out. And I'm going to play that in just a tick, just to keep you sort of interested this morning in these fabulous tunes. Now, this is the Gardening Gang with Cheralyn about to embrace the moment and talk about getting your hands dirty, filthy, grubby. What do you reckon?
That's it. Time to get your hands dirty, gardening gangsters. So this week you could plant Brussels sprouts. You can plant cauliflower as well, capsicum, chilli, climbing beans, eggplant, kale, leeks, lettuce, mustard greens, pumpkins. My pumpkins are just come up, they're babies, but you can still put your pumpkins in for the next few weeks. Radishes, rock melon, rosella, there's a bush tucker one for you. Spring onions, squash, sweet corn, watermelon, basil, chives, lemongrass, mint. Keep those in pots, though, everyone. You don't want them all over your garden. Rosemary, tarragon, azaleas, camellias, grevilleas, marigolds, petunias, and time to get those beautiful sunflowers in for autumn.
You did the A to Z this morning of plant life, I think.
I do. I like to do things alphabetical.
Should one plant on a very hot day like today, or wait till it's a bit,
cool,
shady?
Yeah, in the shady. That's what you should do. And it's not good to sort of wait till, if it's a really hot day, don't do the thing of putting them in late in the evening either, because if it's been really hot and then you start watering at night, then all the little snails and slugs and everything come out and go, oh, yum, dinner.
No rain forecast until Wednesday at this stage of the forecast.
Okay, yeah, it's a little hot to plant this weekend. I'd probably hold off until it just cools down in a couple of days a little bit, yeah. But anyway, keep those
probably
things
about
in mind.
my birthday should be perfect.
Oh, is it your birthday soon?
This time next week, yeah.
Oh, hint, everybody.
I become a very old man.
No. What are you, 40 and some months?
Plus tax.
Nice.
Now, what about this thing called the grapevine? I heard it through the grapevine,
You heard it through the grapevine. Well, look, there's not much on the grapevine, I have to admit, this week. I think everybody's getting ready to go back to school. And if you'd like to go back to school and learn...
Everyone doesn't go to school, you know.
Well, I think, everybody's busy and it's like, in the last week of the holidays, don't want to do anything, So there's not much on the grapevine. But if you want to go back to school and learn permaculture, Gosford TAFE is starting their face-to-face introduction to permaculture classes again, which is fabbo. February 2021. Yeah, this is great. They're running over 9 sessions on Tuesdays and Fridays. You'll need to contact Gosford TAFE to register for the information enrolment evening in order to go. I've got an email address as well, and it's Kerrie, KERRIE.Anderson 4 at tafenewsouthwales.edu.au. I'll put that on our website as well, but contact Gosford TAFE. That's one coming up, but you'll need to get in quick. And also on February the 13th, you'll need to book in for this one now. You'll miss out. Central Coast Ultimate Fungal Wizardry. How does that sound at the Gosford Regional Gallery? Yeah, I like the sound of that.
Oh, they'll be just crowded at the front door for that one.
Okay, so join Urban Culture as they return to their in-person workshops to bring you hands-on short courses on skill development in gourmet and medicinal mushroom cultivation. Learn how to grow your own mushrooms in only 2 hours.
I'd rather eat them than grow them.
I don't know if they grow in 2 hours or you learn in 2 hours. I'll have to go along and see. So jump onto Central. You can contact Gosford Regional Gallery and find out all about that one and book in.
And
that was the grapevine.
Madam, what have you got on the line here?
I've got Mandy dos Santos on the phone, and she's a university qualified nutritionist and food scientist, and she's very passionate about children developing a positive relationship with food, and by nurturing that love and respect of food will in turn strengthen this relationship. Welcome to the show, Mandy.
Thank you for having me.
Well, look, it's almost time for children to go back to school, and after this wonderful summer holiday and sort of easier meals and probably things being a bit more relaxed, parents have to start thinking about getting those lunch boxes ready. Have you got any tips for the parents out there and even grandparents about getting together their lunches for kids?
Yeah, for sure. I think probably the most important thing is to really think about what are the foods that your children enjoy eating. I don't mean obviously all the sweeties and the chocolates or whatnot, but really thinking about writing down with your child what are the things that they might like in their lunchbox. And then from that, just really thinking about variety of food groups and variety of colour and water, always water.
Oh, yeah, that's really important. Look, I don't have school-aged children in my family at all, and I keep hearing this term lunchbox shaming. It sounds really scary. Do you know what that is, Mandy?
Yes, Cheralyn, you're right. It is really scary. We live in a society now of food abundance. There's so much food around, and so therefore we try to create sort of a framework about what should or shouldn't be eaten. That's definitely a decision that's made by adults, especially for sort of young early learners or early primary and primary school age children. And lunchbox shaming is something that seems to be coming from schools as a way to be able to limit certain sort of processed or high sugar, high salt foods coming into the lunchboxes. And although I understand understand where these teachers or schools are coming from. Shaming a child's lunchbox directly to the child, even with a note, is actually not really solving the problem.
So is that what's actually happening? Is there a note going in that the child sees, or from someone who's qualified at school? Who actually, how's it done?
Well, every school is different. Obviously, they take a different sort of stance on it, but I've seen it more. There's little notes that come home. There might be sort of like a little printout note and comes into the lunchbox or into the school bag, but a child would know that's coming into their lunchbox, so they're aware of what's potentially going on. And as we know, the communication portal between families and teachers and schools is so important. And I think that with a note that can often feel kind of patronising or condescending is not really getting to the crux of what potentially the problems are that are going on at home. I mean, nutrition and what we eat and health is so individual, and there's a host of different reasons why parents might be packing certain foods in a lunchbox for a child.
And I can imagine that as well. There could be different cultural reasons, the fact that they're just really, really busy. If they work full time, I mean, I'm on Instagram, and even for me, it flashes up sometimes these, and they are amazing, these lunch boxes that look like works of art. But seriously, I remember when I worked full time and my husband was in the Navy in a way, and I didn't have any support. I mean, my kids would be lucky to get a Vegemite sandwich and a packet of crisps and a juice box, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Like, you know, you need to look at the decisions that families are facing. So to put that pressure on them in a school environment when they're already under a host of other sort of environmental or emotional and social things going on with friends and teachers, it's just not helping develop that positive relationship with food. In actual fact, the shaming is really harming it.
Well, thanks a lot for your time today, Mandy. And you're from Little People Nutrition. I heard you've got a little foodie play group coming up soon.
I do. So my little business is Little People Nutrition, and I work alongside you as well, Cheralyn, which is amazing. And we are so pumped to start our Foodie Nature play group coming up in February the 3rd, and that's a weekly program. Unfortunately, I can't open it to any more people because it's completely booked out, which is unbelievable for term one, but we're hoping to see how that goes this term with our pilot program. And it's really about those early years and getting children involved in the garden and cooking and being with nature, which we all realised over this last year. We just want to be outside and with community, touching the earth.
Very important. Well, thanks for your time today, Mandy. And I tell you what, have fun making those school lunch boxes this week as well. Thanks, Mandy.
Thank you.
I did want to cut in there, but Mandy, thank you for that. I just want to mention too, Cheralyn, that when I was very young, and with my birthday coming up next weekend, it seems so long ago. So you're at school. So my favourite thing for lunch was Mondays. We always used the tuck shop. And I used to always insist, I did it for years and years and years. It was a bread roll, a lovely fresh bread roll full of baked beans.
Oh, goodness.
And Mum said, that's all you have. And she said, you could have a nice ham and tomato nut, Mum. And I had it for donkey's ages.
Wow, cold baked beans.
And look at me now.
Look at you now.
The 100-kilo weakling. This is the Gardening Gang Saturday Morning Star with Pete Little and Cheralyn Darcy, now joined by the lovely Vicki from Narara Valley Nursery, because it's time for What's Hot and What's Not at the nursery. Good morning, Vicki.
Morning, Vicki.
Good morning. Hello, Gardening Gang.
Hey, mate. And it's going to be a warm day today, I suppose. People are getting in early for their purchases today because of that.
They sure are. It's been busy.
Okay, though, what's hot in the nursery today, Vicki?
Okay, aside from the weather and my Facebook selfies, it is the golden cane, number one seller.
Oh, golden cane.
Yeah, the golden cane palm. Yep. Yeah. So always consistently all year round our number one seller.
And that because it grows crazy and you can't kill it with a mattock or what?
Yeah, pretty much. They're fast growing, very versatile. You can have them in containers, in the ground, full sun, shade, part shade, wherever you want to put them.
That's it.
So, yeah, and we've got them here. We've got about 200 of them sitting here in 200 mil pots, and they're half price today for just $16. So.
Well, that's pretty good, Now, what's not happening? What is sort of drying on the branches, mate? What's not
I wanted
happening?
to talk about discarding your plastic pots. I heard that you had Jake Cassar on the show earlier.
True.
And we like to recycle pots here, so if you can't use them as fertiliser dispensers or for scooping up soil or for pot fillers, you can bring them actually back to Narara Valley Nursery, and we
try and get them back to suppliers. And also Jack Cassar has come in and he's used our used pots for his propagation. So I thought that was appropriate today to mention.
Yeah, I think that's very appropriate.
Yeah, we have to be sustainable. That's good. Well done.
I like that.
Yeah, very important.
Yes. It's
Vicki, thank you very much for your time. Now, I've forgotten your little trademark phrase that you gave us last week.
Holy foliage.
Holy foliage.
Holy foliage. Yeah, not just on Sundays, any day of the week.
Yeah.
Hey, have a great weekend, Vicki. Thank you, and I look forward to more of those selfies, mate. Yeah.
Behave yourself, Pete.
Yes.
Thank you, mate.
Vicki.
Bye.
Bye.
There's Vicki there, who likes to put a little selfie on the website there for all of us to entertain our friends and neighbours. Coast FM. Now time for the market report. A lot of markets are back in action. And Cheralyn, you've got the report there that was prepared by the lovely Doreen this week. And what's on, mate?
What's on? Well, today, 23rd of January, the entrance markets are on between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. at the Memorial Park. There will be freshly baked breads, patisserie, gourmet hot foods, oils, homemade strawberry jam, fashion and crafts. Fairhaven Op Shopping Village at Point Clare is a great shopping destination, and the profits all go to Fairhaven services. There's pre-loved fashion, toys, homewares and much, much more. The Op Shop opens Monday to Saturdays, 9:15 to 3 p.m, and the centre also has a cafe with live music most Wednesdays and Sundays. See their website at fairhaven.org.au or their Facebook page. Tomorrow, 24th of January, Gosford City Markets, or Gosford City Farmers Markets, is being held at the Gosford Showground between 7 a.m. and 12 noon. Talk to local farmers and producers and check out the fresh fruit and veggies, sourdough, eggs and deli items. There are also international foods, coffee and much more. Tukley Markets are on again tomorrow in the Coles car park between 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. There are lots of craft stalls, plants, seasonal fruits, veggies and hobbies. Avoca Beach Markets are being held tomorrow between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. On the foreshore. Shop in a relaxing and creative atmosphere with products ranging from local art, skincare, jewellery and food, to name just a few. Whilst being there, you'll be entertained by local talent. And that's the market report for this weekend.
Coast FM with the Gardening Gang on the Saturday morning. Pete Little and Cheralyn Darcy, now joined by Lachlan McDonald, our property expert from Ray White McDonald Partners, who's just returning back from leave. Did you have a nice quiet time, buddy?
Certainly not, Pete. It was flat out over the break. I've never seen anything like it, to be honest.
Well, we've been reading these reports about the demand for real estate here on the coast. Is it like, it's not just paper talk, is it?
Certainly not. I mean, you often have to be sceptical of those big headlines saying 40% rises in places, but at the moment we are feeling the energy in the market. Normally, the market really doesn't get back into gear until around Australia Day when kids go back to school. This year, right through the Christmas period, inquiries, interest, and the first week of the year when we got back officially, from the 4th of January, was incredible. The absolute energy in the market and the amount of inquiries we were receiving.
And sales as well, isn't it? Because I live at Lake Memora, and I noticed a lot of places going up for sale, and they seem to sell pretty quickly. I've seen a few stickers go up straight away almost.
They might do without the agents. They might say, boys, we don't need you. We'll just put a sign up in front of our house. Talk to us.
They've got agents, but I have been surprised at a couple of houses how quickly they've sold.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, properties are going really, really fast, and it's mainly driven by the demand that we're getting out of the Sydney market. There's so many people moving to the coast. We've talked about it a lot last year, and it's only continued.
Right.
Now, this is the Gardening Gang, of course, on our Saturday morning. How important is preparing your property for sale? Like, before you talk to you guys, the agents, or do you take on a advice service when you talk to particular sellers? What's your thoughts there?
Well, presentation is very important, and the properties that are well presented to the market are going to attract the bulk of the interest. And obviously competition is what's going to drive the best price. So it's really important to get your home presented properly before you sell it. That's something which, obviously can be a little bit daunting for sellers. So, we offer advice on things like that, and generally people have a few things they need to do around the home to really maximise it. But, yeah, it makes a big difference.
A nice garden, a tidy garden at least.
Tidy gardens, definitely.
Yes.
Well, it's funny you say that because one of the things we're really noticing is that properties with a good backyard are receiving exponential amounts more interest.
Okay.
So the people,
family buyers.
People coming out of Sydney, they're not coming here to get a courtyard.
Yeah.
They want a yard. And they want a really nice yard. And if it's beautifully presented, you should see the level of interest it gets.
Yeah. And everyone's getting into gardening now, which is fantastic for us and the gardening gang. But, a lot of people are. I think there's more interest in having a garden.
Cheralyn, you've got this green thumb.
A
Not
green
everybody
vision.
has.
Not everybody has, but even I think to have the space to experiment as well. I mean, if you come here, there'd be something you want to try out at least, even if it's a lawn. Not a big fan of the big lawns, but, you want that green space.
Yes, not everybody wants to put a granny flat in their backyard.
Even if it's not even if it's just the natives, even if it's just the bush surrounding the property, that's what people are liking too.
Ah, right, okay. Yeah, of course.
So I'm hearing here, Lachlan, the demand for home units and the like is not as high as for freestanding properties.
Not at all, no. No. There is still some demand for the home, for units, but they have to be, again, a lifestyle improvement for someone from Sydney. So what that means is maybe it's near the beach, like has views, maybe it has ocean views or something like that. That's still an improvement from someone coming from a unit in a part of Sydney that's not near the water, for example.
Yes.
So it has to be a step up and then it's getting the interest.
Now let's get the exciting news on the radio this morning. Your opinion, and you've been in the game for quite a long time now, of the upcoming year. Give us a percentage, just a kind of an indication of how much more people are paying this year compared to just last year, for example.
Yeah, well, I mean, a great example is a property that we've sold within the last week. So it's as recent as that. And only about 12, 18 months ago, that property would have been high fives. It's just gone under contract for 710. That's the sort of difference we're talking in some suburb.
Wow. Which suburb, Lucky?
I think you might have missed the boat, unfortunately, Cheralyn.
Well, that's amazing news. Well, Lachlan will be joining us every Saturday morning to talk real estate here on the Gardening Gang at Home. Great. Thanks, Lachlan. We're looking forward to seeing you each week here at Coast FM. And this is our Saturday morning Funster. Couple of hours with Pete Little and Cheralyn Darcy. Now, you've got some feedback immediately today from our program on the website or
on our Facebook
website?
page.
Facebook.
Yeah, you can find us at home with the Gardening Gang on our Facebook page, and we've got a wonderful message for you, Pete. It's from Joanne Humphreys, and she says, the canteen at Edelong Primary School sell very healthy and lovely lunches and recess breaks. And yes, Pete, we still do baked beans, sandwiches and rolls.
Oh, no shaming there.
There you go. There you go. So that's fantastic. I love that. You can still get one. And talking about our Facebook page, we've also got our podcast on. So that goes up by Monday mornings. I'm going to get it up there by Sundays. And you can find it on all podcast platforms. Just search for At Home with the Gardening Gang or jump on our website, coastfmgardeninggang.com.
Coming up towards the 10 o'clock news and the weekend beat after 10 with Sarah and Lockie. Just a reminder, Tuggerah Lakes Art Society are holding their home-baked artworks and handicraft exhibition today and tomorrow between 10 and 4 at the Entrance Gallery in Norberta Street at the entrance. And Cheralyn, what's coming up next week in our magic show?
Next week it's plants to work with. So plants for your offices, even if it's at home or in an office somewhere, and for your businesses, ones that will survive indoors and be nice for you to have around as well. That's all next week at Home with the Gardening Gang, Pete.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.